Have you ever wished you could see the world economy like a giant game of chess? Well, legendary investor Ray Dalio thinks you can. And in this breakdown, we're going to walk through his blueprint for understanding the massive, game-changing shifts happening right under our noses.
So here's the core idea from Dalio. The global economy isn't just random chaos. Nope, it's a strategic game. And if you can just understand where the key pieces are on the board and the forces that are moving them, you can start to get a real sense of what's coming next.
And our guide for all this is Ray Dalio, the guy who founded Bridgewater Associates. He's literally spent decades analyzing these huge global patterns, all to figure out what's really happening on this giant chessboard.
Which, brings us to the biggest question of all, right? In this crazy era of change we're in, with everything from new politics to wild new technologies, where are all the pieces actually headed?
To figure that out, Dalio says we need to see the world not just as a game, but as a machine. He believes the whole thing is driven by 5 fundamental forces. Think of them like these giant interlocking gears that are always turning and dictating which way history is going to go.
So what are these 5 big gears? Okay, first up, you've got money and credit. That's the basic debt cycle. Second is internal order. The politics and social vibes inside a country. Are people getting along or are they at each other's throats? Third is the international order. That's the power game between countries. Number 4, acts of nature. We're talking pandemics, climate change, that sort of thing. And finally, number 5, technology, the engine of human invention. Dalio says these 5 things are constantly bumping into each other, driving absolutely everything.
And right now, those gears are grinding toward a really fundamental shift in how the world works. We're moving away from that old system of global cooperation and into a new, much more competitive phase.
I mean, just look at the difference here. The world we built after World War II was all about shared rules and institutions. The UN, the World Bank. The whole point was to work together. But today, the mindset is often my nation first, and that forces every other country to pick a side. It's leading to these big, competing power blocks.
And of course, you're going to get some pushback. You've got powerful nations, like the BRICS countries, who are actively building an alternative. They're trying to create their own financial systems that don't rely on the US dollar, essentially carving out a space where they don't have to play by America's rules.
But here's the thing. This new conflict isn't just about who has the most tanks or ships anymore. The battlefield is changing. Today, the real wars are being fought with technology and industrial policy. It's a whole new kind of economic warfare.
And all this is leading to what people are calling the Great Decoupling. It means the global tech world is literally splitting in two. You've got one sphere led by the US and another led by China. The old days where you could just rely on your rivals for critical tech parts, yeah, those are over.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract idea, it's driving massive policy changes. For instance, the US now has a goal to produce 20% of the world's most advanced computer chips right at home by 2030. Why? It's simple, to cut its risky dependence on Taiwan, which sits at the center of a geopolitical storm.
Now, in the middle of all this chaos, you've got these new economic ideas bubbling up, like something called modern monetary theory, or MMT. It's this pretty controversial idea that says, hey, maybe governments that control their own currency can just print money to pay for things without being so worried about taxes or debt. It's a real head-scratcher for traditional economics.
But Dalio has a pretty sharp response to that. For him, it's incredibly simple. Money is not wealth. Making things, productivity, that's real wealth. If you just print a bunch more cash without actually producing more goods and services, you're not getting richer. You're just making every dollar you have worthless. In a word, inflation.
And here's the chain reaction he lays out. Step 1, you print a ton of money. Step 2, all that new cash starts chasing the exact same amount of stuff. Step 3, prices have no choice but to go up. That's your inflation. And the result? Step 4, the value of your savings, your bonds, all of it just kind of melts away.
But look, these huge global shifts aren't just things happening out there between countries. Dalio's point is that they shine a huge spotlight on the cracks we have right here at home, especially when you start talking about inequality and opportunity.
Just take the tech boom, for example. According to Dalio's research, it's pretty staggering. Less than 1% of the US population are the major winners. And the other 99%? Well, they're either not affected at all, or even worse, their jobs are being wiped out by this new tech.
So what on earth is causing this huge divide? For Dalio, the answer is crystal clear. And it's one thing: a failing education system. A system that just isn't getting most people ready for the kind of economy we have today.
He points to his home state, Connecticut, which is one of the richest states in the country.
In the wealthy town of Greenwich, they spend about $28,000 per student a year. But just a 10-minute drive down the road, in the poorer city of Bridgeport, they spend half that, only $14,000. That's not an opportunity gap, that's an opportunity chasm.
And what's the price tag for this failure? It's huge. Connecticut spends over $700 million a year on prisons and crime. Dalio argues that this is basically a tax society pays for failing to invest in kids from the very beginning.
It creates this horrible, vicious cycle that just feeds on itself. Poor education leads to more kids dropping out of high school. That, in turn, leads to higher rates of crime and people ending up in prison, which just locks in poverty for another generation. The only way to break that cycle, he says, is to invest at the start, not try to clean up the mess at the end.
And to really put our society's priorities in perspective, Dalio points out something pretty wild. He once noted that the amount of money spent on Christmas candy, just candy, is more than the combined annual budgets of huge charities like the American Cancer Society and the Heart Association. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. What could we actually accomplish if we decided to invest in our children's future with the same passion we have for, well, stuff? What kind of world could we build then?